outside of the box. You don't necessarily have to be interested in starting a business, but you could. And Kathleen's actually one of our participants in this program right now. We partnered with Pawnee County to do this program. So we only have 2 classes left. Kind of hard to believe that we're somewhat winding this down, but it's been on Wednesday evenings. First 4 classes were over in Larned, and our last 4 have been in St. John. I've enjoyed listening to some of the presentations that we have each night from business owners, and I'll let Kathleen give a little bit of her perspective being an actual student in this certificate program.
It's been a really great opportunity. It involves having the classes, but also doing some reading and online work outside of the class meeting times. What is really cool is that each class they bring in a different local person who is either an entrepreneur and has started their own business. Sometimes it's more they've helped navigate a family business into, the next generation and what they've had to do to be innovative and kind of adapt to the changing world that we live in. Some of the concepts, it gets you thinking out of the box, and it's looking at being solutionary in your thinking and what are the problems and how do we meet them? What are ways of, it's not about having to necessarily go to the bank and get a loan to start a bakery and, put a lot of things at stake to start a business, but maybe it's, okay, let's see if people will buy my cupcakes at the farmer's market. Mm-hmm. And then if they'll buy my cakes at the farmer's market, maybe I do a little catering where it's like, oh, if you have a special event, do some orders, and then grow it into a business where then I can afford to go into like a downtown street as opposed to betting everyone's going to love my cupcakes and maybe failing there where maybe I do go to the farmer's market and they don't like the recipes. And so then maybe it's changing and adapting on the fly as opposed to really sinking in without doing some kind of testing of the water. And so I think a lot of it is you have to learn to be adaptable and flexible, gauge your market, be responsive. And so the class really helps with you thinking about things in different ways. And again, it's not necessarily having that business planning, taking out a large loan and making a big gamble, but it's, taking small steps that are feasible now to get to where you want to be.
Kind of like putting your toe in the water, right?
Yeah.
Like that a little bit. Is that what solutionary is? Or...
Yeah, it is looking at, how are you part of kind of figuring out where you can solve a problem. Sometimes it's, we were joking in class one night because someone was saying how they have to do a lot of things at their job that weren't necessarily duties as
as a sign.
Written in the job description.
Yeah. And she's like, one thing I draw the line at is I don't like to scrub toilets. And someone else was saying, I also hate to scrub toilets. And I was like, well, to me, it sounds like I should start a toilet scrubbing business because you guys will pay me to do it. And so that's kind of being, that's finding the solution or, there's a need and you can position yourself to kind of fill that where it's like, right now, do I really want to start a toilet scrubbing business? No. But if there's a need and it's like something I don't mind doing because I don't mind cleaning, whereas other people really hate cleaning, then that might be a good way for me to kind of break in and do things.
That is the best description and analogy I've ever heard.
It was good.
It clarifies things. Very well done, Kathleen. We're talking about the Ice House program, so we've got 2 more programs left, right?
2 more classes.
Okay, now
2 more classes.
Who did you put together the program, or?
So the Kauffman Foundation actually created this program, and then Network Kansas kind of vets it. And as an e-community, we have access to funds to bring these to our community. So anybody, like I said, you don't have to be starting a business. Anybody in our communities could have taken this course. And Network Kansas has other board certified programs available. It's just we have to test our people and see what they want from us before we bring something to the community, because these things they cost. But we have access to other programs as well that we could be bringing to our communities that delve deeper into your business, maybe looking at your financials and your marketing. This is kind of, I feel like, glossing over the surface maybe and looking at multiple different things.
An entrepreneurial mindset as opposed to, really putting through a cash flow statement and or figuring.
How do you identify speakers and people that'd be really good for this? Are these people from the area?
Yeah, so the first 4 weeks in Larned, their economic development and chamber gal, she recruited people to come and speak about their businesses, and I've done the same. My 4 weeks in St. John, I've recruited businesses in our area to come and speak, and then I tried to use different restaurants to cater the meals for the evenings, and then Network Kansas actually provides a list of facilitators, the ones that lead the class, to us, and we chose someone that was closest in our region. She's actually from Hodgman County, and she's the economic development director over there, Leanne Seiler. So
I met her before.
yeah, she's awesome to
I've
be
got
around.
a Leanne Seiler story, but it's really
She's
really,
full of energy. I love her. She's a good person.
Okay, remind me to go back to the Leanne Seiler story because it's really relevant.
Okay.
And tell her about how great a person. Okay, who have we had from the St. John area, and who can we look forward to for the next two?
So I had Jordan White from White's Food Liner in St. John come and present the first week, and then last night I had Carol Long with Carol Long Pottery come speak, and she's actually taken the Ice House class before, back when Larned hosted it themselves a couple years ago. Next week, I haven't got anyone lined up specifically, but I think I might ask an individual from Maxville that does some metal art, just because I don't think even a lot of local people know what he does. And then the last week, someone from Network Kansas will actually be presenting about more of their programs that we could be offering in Stafford County.
If there was a cavalry of the entrepreneurial army in Stafford County, on the lead horse would be Carolyn Dunn, okay? Because you've been talking about this for a long, long time, and it's been very important to you. So I'm going to put you on the spot, because solutionary, what's that mean to you when it comes to entrepreneurial spirit and things like that?
I think I equate it to figure it out. There may not necessarily be a map that is telling you how to...
Right.
And I feel like even within our own economic development organization, that defines our culture a lot. We don't necessarily have either a clear roadmap of how to accomplish all of the things we want to. We kind of figure it out as we go along to a certain extent. Or even like the idea that we have what I would call more of a strategic doing document. We don't necessarily have a strategic plan, but as an organization, we have areas of priority. We have first of all, kind of our strategic mission, and then we have areas of priority, and then we have projects that we want to do within those areas of priority. And we don't always know if we're going to have the right resources to carry it out in this year. We compete for grants and everything. We kind of get it done as we can, more of a strategic doing way. So I guess kind of coming back to the idea of you don't always know exactly how you're going to get to the end goal, but you try to figure it out. It's, I guess, solutionary.
But you should have some idea, maybe.
Yeah, right. I'm not right.
Well, I'm going to go for this, but I have no idea what I'm doing. But I'm going to go for it,
There's
and I'll figure it out.
There's a balance,
So,
right? You don't want to have
sure.
absolutely no direction in mind. But if you're one that can't work in ambiguity to some degree, you probably struggle with that idea of how to figure it out or be solutionary. And so if you can, I think there's even a lot of benefit to employers of having employees that are more comfortable with that idea of trying to find the solutions within the area of their responsibility. They may not be running a full business, but surely you have some area of responsibility that if you apply a mindset to trying to see problems that could be improved upon, that's, I think, useful to just about anyone.
The Ice House program, so is it over with as soon as the next two programs are presented?
Yeah, it takes a process to get it to your community and figuring out the dates that it works best. We were supposed to start this back in January, and we didn't have people signed up. We just didn't have the capacity to make it worth the time and the money. And we pushed it back a couple months, and then we had enough people signed up that we could do it. So, it's a process, and this is a class that we probably wouldn't offer for a couple years now, because I feel like the people that wanted to do it and were interested, they've done it, and not a whole lot of other people showed interest. But maybe the ones that have gone through it now will share their experience, and maybe we would need to do it a year from now. We'll just have to see.
What's been the response from the people who have gone? We've got one right here. Kathleen's fired up. They like it?
I think overall, it's good. There's good discussion. And some of it, I think, too, is just hearing people's stories. You don't always realize, like, being in the community of the people of either where they started, because all you see is that successful business today that continues to grow. So kind of hearing their story. But again, I think, sometimes it's thinking out of the box, and what I'm thinking isn't what other people are thinking, even when you're shown the same, story or different things. So kind of having that group discussion. And the book is really, really good and informative. It's called Who Owns the Ice House? And that just is a really great story of, what kind of sets someone apart. It's not that, entrepreneurs are, kind of like these unicorns or something of society. It's that, they're ordinary people who have, taken on things or worked in a way to, make progress towards their dreams, as opposed to just staying comfortable with where they are. They continue to make progress and push themselves. And so there are risks involved, but they don't always have to be giant ones. Sometimes it's smaller leaps that allow you to make larger leaps down the road because you're more comfortable with that.
Okay, Carolyn Dunn in with us today. Ashley Bevan is in the studio as well, and that's Kathleen Norman here on the program. Before I forget, give me the latest update. Stafford County Young Professionals.
I'm in the works for planning our event in June, so I don't have details on that yet, but I'm working on it.
And
We're just going to keep doing events every quarter, hopefully.
Okay, so I will make kind of an appeal on both of these kinds of things. We've kind of maybe alluded to Ashley in her comments that we kind of respond to how much interest we have from people. So if people hear us talking about these things, don't hesitate to contact our office and let us know. We can schedule more of this stuff the more that we have people interested in it. So 549-3527, or check out our website at staffordecodevo.com.
So it's in the works. I'm still working on it. We've had small groups that have gathered, but a few different people each time. So I'm going to keep doing it.
It's a great venture.
Thanks.
A great venture. Carolyn, some discussions with a Kansas State University professor of architecture about doing affordable housing design and a possible design and build project in the coming school year.
This is kind of a fun story. So I found myself on K-State's campus last fall when my kids had an event there. And I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity to try to identify candidates to participate in our AmeriCorps program. And I kind of explored campus a little bit in the different programs that they have. And one was in community design in the College of Architecture. And long story short, through a just drop-in encounter, ended up being connected with a professor that has a particular interest in affordable and energy efficient housing. And when I kind of explained what we have just continued to try to find the best way to do that, create a housing that's affordable for the incomes that we see in rural areas. It's hard to build new housing that meets that goal. We've had a program here for maybe 2 or 3 years now, where we would make a down payment subsidy to those who want to build a new house, but we haven't even used all of the slots that we have for that, because we're still struggling with the idea that what is maybe seen as affordable housing in a different market in Wichita is still not affordable for the kinds of incomes that we have here. So we still haven't completely cracked that nut. Is there a different way we can build housing that meets a more affordable price point? So he's both designed a prototype for us. We're kind of vetting what it will actually cost to build that. We're hoping that price point will come in at $100,000 or less for a new house that is 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's not a tiny house. It's a small house. It's not as big as maybe some of the housing that is commonly built is. It does not include an attached garage. I think some of the thinking is that if someone, wants to build in a garage over time or whatever, maybe that is a strategy that makes the initial housing more affordable. Mm-hmm. So we're taking a look at that. And I think this is the part that I'm currently pretty excited about. The professor that we're working with teaches fifth-year architecture students in a studio format. So that's a year-long class that involves a design aspect to their work in the fall semester, and then they actually build in the spring semester. They're currently doing a house in Kansas City, and I think it's going to happen that they'll build a house in Stafford County in the 2019-20 school year.
Yeah, just a conversation. That's how things get started, isn't it? Real quick, Carolyn, you got back a report yesterday on the feasibility of a grain loading facility in Stafford County. Maybe run down a couple of the highlights on that report.
Well, we did have a report to the county commission yesterday, and it just, I think, quantified better than we had in actual numbers what the amount of grain available to do this kind of project would be and what the gap is. And there is a gap, but we knew that from the beginning, and that may provide us the basis to be able to either justify an investment of public funds to be able to close the gap and create business that otherwise wouldn't have occurred, and maybe a launch pad for even more business beyond that. It is going to be it's a hard task because there is, it's not a slam dunk of profitability is what it boils down to, but I don't think the door is closed. And part of what we talked through yesterday too is that this kind of analysis can't account for all of the factors involved. So it's kind of a starting point of discussions with potential tenants. It's not the final analysis.
You mentioned gap. What gap would that be? Is that the amount of grain or
the amount of cost it takes to start the project and find a return on investment that is acceptable to most investors?
So what are we going to do with this now? Is just going to give you got to have the information before you
got to have the information. We'll probably try to validate this with some companies and see if they would be willing to continue kind of talking with us. And if we did, it might also be the basis of trying to identify a site and some of the things that we would probably need to do before we apply for major grants is actually have a site, have a plan with costs associated with what the infrastructure is going to cost, presumably a rail loop. But
rails, I mean, that's the biggest advantage really to have a main line railroad coming through your community.
Yeah.
I mean, in all of Stafford County, because Stafford, Maxville as well.
So
it's not like the line that, runs up to Hoisington or something like that and back, but this is one that goes coast to coast.
Right. And it is our connection to the bigger markets of people and that consume goods of any sort on both coasts. So one example of this was conversation with Stafford County Flour Mills. They, would potentially expand their milling capacity over time, but they're aware that they have to be able to get that flour to the population centers in a way that's cost competitive. And that means, right now, a lot of their market is in the Appalachian region. You got to get beyond that into the two coasts probably to hit the biggest population centers. Well, transportation is a significant component of that. So if we could open up more efficient transportation for them, it might help them find their, just best investment scenario too, in terms of how they may or may not and increase their milling capacity over time.
Would it surprise people to know how big a company that is and the reach that they have? It
might. Yeah, they are a fascinating company. They do sell flour in a lot of places you might not expect around the country, but there's always, the potential for more. Of course, they're a small company in the whole scheme of, flour and consumption in the country. So just like a lot of things, we'd like to see that continue to grow. I think there's probably other products here in the not just Stafford County, but the immediate region that probably have a similar kind of thing. If they had the option for rail transportation that might make them more competitive in their sales outside of this region.
Okay. Ashley Bevan, Program Director, any other programs coming up here?
Golden Belt Community Foundation will be down in St. John on Tuesday, May 7th at 5:30 to talk about the Come Home Reverse Scholarship Program. And then the end of May, Friday the 24th, we are having a ribbon cutting out at the rest area on Highway 50 for the new signs that have been put in for the byway, the Wetlands and Wildlife National Scenic Byway. So those are two events that I would want to highlight before we sign off today.
Kathleen, great job today. Anything else that you'd like to add before our show comes to an end today?
Not that I can think of,
Okay.
but thank you.
That's our show today. Focus on Stafford County here, a special out and about show on KBGB.